There was an email last week from a tech distributor in France that made the rounds and highlighted a coming change to Broadcom's minimum licensing requirements for VMware customers. The email stated that on April 10th, the minimum number of licensed cores for a VMware license will increase from 16 to 72. This means that any servers that are below the minimum core count will have that new minimum in force. So, for example, if you have an 8-core CPU, you'll be paying for 72 licensed cores for that server. There will also be increased costs for customers that do not renew their subscription licenses by their anniversary date. Now, there's been some speculation from affected users that this is a way to kind of force smaller VMware customers onto more lucrative options such as VMware Cloud Foundation as opposed to the entry-level vSphere Foundation offering. Stephen, I saw a little bit about this, but then it kind of felt like some people weren't really picking up on it. Is this a massive change to the way that people are going to start licensing their virtualization software?
Well, it sounds like it is, doesn't it? I mean, wouldn't you be mad if you had only 8 cores and you had to pay for 72 instead of 8? That sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? The truth is that this isn't as much of a change for most VMware customers as it sounds. Frankly, this is egg on the face of VMware more than it is something that's really going to affect that many customers. The problem is the customers it affects, it's going to very deeply affect. So let's dig into this. First off, VMware has not, as far as I know, confirmed this change. So this could be a misunderstanding. It could be something regional that we're not aware of, but it wouldn't surprise me if VMware did enact a minimum core count requirement simply because multi-core CPUs are so popular. Most customers already have more than 72 cores if they're using anything at all. In fact, I can't imagine a scenario where a VCF customer would have fewer than 72 cores. So this just doesn't really affect VCF people, but the smallest companies, I think it would affect, assuming that it's true, because it's quite possible that there are many, many tiny shops out there, probably shops that are poorly equipped to migrate to something else or to handle this kind of change, and shops that will be very shocked at the cost of licensing when they need to buy many, many more cores than they are actually using. Those shops are going to be really, really disproportionately affected by a change such as this one. Effectively, if you're using, if you've got an old license, you've only got a few cores licensed, you're kind of hoping for the best. Well, this is the end of the line. I think Broadcom is really trying to push those shops out of the VMware ecosystem, which is really sad because, to be honest, those were those early adopters sometimes grow up and become major users in the future. And frankly, if you raise the barrier to entry high enough, people just aren't going to enter. It's no surprise that VMware competitors are making hay with this. I will admit I was among the people who said, hey, this isn't April 1st. How come they're announcing this? Because it sounds like such a ludicrous change, doesn't it? That you would force everybody to have a minimum of 72 cores. The other thing that they allegedly are forcing is a penalty if you haven't yet renewed your license, which again, I can see, but is really going to affect the little guys and not going to affect the big guys who probably already renewed anyway. This is a big change. It's a change that could affect a lot of people. And frankly, it's another great opportunity for companies. I've seen my friends over at Scale Computing gleefully rubbing their hands saying, we would love to have you as a customer over here. And we won't charge you a minimum of 72 cores. Certainly, there are a lot of other companies and competitors out there that are saying the same thing. Unfortunately, the customers that this is going to affect, they may not be in a position to go out there and make that change anytime soon, and that's going to be a big problem. So we'll see how this sorts out. Again, for most VMware customers, anyone using VCF, it's really not going to be a big deal. But for the little guys, I'm sorry to hear about this. And honestly, there's some great alternatives out there, so maybe give those a look.